Hey, hello everyone. You're in the office with Joseph Skoda. G.I. Joe Skoda in the flesh. You like my office? I'm in a real office today. And today I have a special guest. He's like 12 hours ahead of me or 12 hours behind me. I'm not really sure. But it's pretty exciting. I met this guy probably a week or two ago in the Toastmaster meeting, and he has all these awards and accolades, but he really talked about that. He talked about what really matters. And awards and accolades and trophies are great. I have a few of them myself. But when you talk a little bit about what really inspires you, that's what's exciting. So please help me welcome our guest today, Talha bin Hamid. Hey, Talha, thank you so much for joining us. Glad to have you here.
Most welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Great. Just tell us a little bit about where you're from and what do you do?
All right. So I'm from Pakistan. I grew up in a mountainous city, a beautiful city called Quetta in the Balochistan province of Pakistan. Later, I migrated to Pakistan's biggest city and one of the world's biggest cities, Karachi, to study. By qualification, I'm an accountant, a chartered accountant, roughly equivalent to what you guys call CPA in the USA and Canada, right?
Sure.
And everything that I do, other than that, is an escape from that CPA kind of thing, right? Because I found out very early on, even though I got the qualification, I passed the exams, I found out that I was not cut out for this. So I found escapes. I found escape in books, in writing. And too late, I found out about Toastmasters, though, only in 2016. Otherwise, I would have been in Toastmasters much longer. So this is about me. As far as my profession is concerned, currently I'm serving as the Chief Internal Auditor of our national shipping company, right? So that's what I do for a living, mostly enterprise risk management and controls and that kind of thing.
That's very interesting. I have a master's of business degree and aviation degree and a few other things I have, but it's not my passion. Businesses, and business is just talking, negotiating, getting to know the other person, and offering a product or service. It's really not that difficult once you figure out the basic skills. But to sit in office all day, I couldn't imagine being an accountant. That was one of my weakest classes I've ever had to take at the college or university was statistics and accounting. Just blew me away. Everything else I could figure out. It wasn't very difficult at all. But those two subjects, I knew it wasn't for me. And I had a 21-year career doing some different things. And me too, I realized that my fun is running away. When the clock says it's time to go home, it's time to go home. So do you have a family and all that likes you working so hard?
Yeah. I have 4 children.
Wow.
And of course, a wife. My wife is also a Toastmaster. In fact, she just placed second. He just placed second in Toastmasters International Video Speech Contest. So unlike me, she's a contest-winning speaker. So since I've been the club growth director and the program policy director, and last year the district director, and these days I'm the immediate past district director. Luckily, I cannot compete, so I'm out of that race. So that's pretty much it.
I can relate to that. I think that was my excuse for years. They weren't eligible to compete if we're in the leadership, and I was in leadership 5 or 6 years or whatever it was. But this year, I have no excuse. Well, this year I'm expected to compete, and I know I'll do well.
Wow.
But because I wear all these hats, people expect me to do better than well. It's going to take a lot of work, and the work it takes to be a world champion speaker or just win our district or a club contest. And I remember hearing someone who was on the big stage, and the next year they didn't even win at the club or the area. So we can all be the best of the best at that moment, but when it really counts, it really
Yes.
could change. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. And yes, uh, somehow being a leader, and since we've been in a position of telling contestants what to do and what not to do at various points in time, somehow when we do speak, when we do compete, we are somehow expected to ace. It's either all the way or it's nothing. Yeah, it can be pretty, uh, I must say, stressful. So I don't envy you right now. I'll surely ask you, how did it work out with you next year?
That's a good point. I you're right. As we become a distinguished Toastmaster or part of the trio of our district, people expect us to know it all. They come to us for all the answers. Now we're pretty
Exactly.
smart in the system and or passing a test or speaking. Doesn't mean we know it all. Doesn't mean we're the best speaker. Doesn't mean we can influence an audience. I've gotten pretty good at motivating people, but not always good at influencing. And there is a difference. I can say, rah, rah, you're doing great. I
Yeah.
got your back. But when I say, well, you should do this, or you need to go do that, everything changes. So that's a different skill set in its own right. So what were some of the challenges you had as a district leader?
Oh my God. How many days do we have for this interview?
As many as
So,
we have to.
wow. So actually, I was appointed and not elected club group director of my district because back then it was a territorial council and
Okay.
Toastmaster had just constitute, constituted all the clubs in Pakistan as a territorial council.
Okay.
And they appointed the first district trio. And I was one of the people who was instrumental in creating the proposal. I also created a very fancy marketing plan, like full of stats and graphics and charts and eloquent language. That we are a nation of 220 million people. We span from Russia in the north and Arabian Sea in the south and India in the east and Iran and Afghanistan in the west and
Sure.
so on. We are a melting pot of Asia and everything, and we will grow from here to here to here in just 3 years. And I submitted the marketing plan. The proposal went, it got accepted. And next thing I knew, I was the very same person in charge of that marketing plan. I never even dreamed remotely that I would be appointed the club group director. And perhaps uh, they appointed me because I had been the president of my home club, Karachi Toastmasters Club. In my tenure, the club went from 28 members to 89 members in a single year. And
Wow.
it showed exceptional growth in terms of, yeah, it showed exceptional growth in terms of education awards as well. And even ever since then, Karachi Toastmaster Club finishes every year in the top five and in the term of in the world, by the way, in terms of educational awards. So I don't know what they saw, but I found myself having to implement that fancy marketing plan. So it was challenging, but you know what? Since we were just 20 clubs back then, it wasn't that difficult to grow from 20 to 29 in the first year with
Sure.
me as club growth director. And then I became program quality director, and I felt relieved that thank God, because club growth director is a position, you would know that everybody has their eyes on you. Everybody knows how many clubs were added.
Yep.
And at each point in time, everybody knows how successful you have been, right? And
Right.
they keep asking you, where are the new clubs? How many new clubs are in the offing? And yeah, it's a nightmare. But then, as program quality director, I realized that first of all, being a new district, we needed to do a lot of learning, right?
Sure.
Because we did not have an accumulated knowledge base or senior people who could guide us, right?
Sure.
So everything was being done for the first time, and as far as PQD is concerned, there is no tangible metrics as to how successful you've been.
Sure.
So what I did was I decided to vary everyone with trainings. So I conducted, since we were online, I took advantage of that. We couldn't hold in-person events, right?
Sure.
So including the club officers training, I actually conducted 12 sessions in the first 6 months, 12 training sessions on various topics,
Wow.
club officers training, speech contests, and negotiation skills, you name it. And since we were online, I got pretty good at setting up the events. All it takes is a few emails, right?
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
Send an email to the right person, invite, and then, and for me, I also developed a passion for graphic designing. I'm not a professional graphic designer, but you know what? Toastmasters makes you do things that you aspire to do for ages, but you never got the chance. And now
Sure.
suddenly you're designing posters and everything. So for me, everything started with a poster. I first visualized the flyer, that what would the flyer of this event say? And then
Yeah.
I worked myself up from them. So it's kind of strange, but that's how I work. So during the first 2 years, we achieved Medley Distinguished Award 2 consecutive years, and we made quite a few waves because we are a new district. And everybody sat up and took notice that we've shown exceptional growth from 20 to 30 and from 30 to 41 clubs in 2 years. And then came my year as district director, or
Yep.
and all hell broke loose. Like we had obscene inflation, we had
Yep.
post yeah, we had post-COVID effects, and COVID had become a regular occurrence, dengue had become a regular occurrence,
Sure.
economic downturn, socio-economic disorder,
Yep.
political instability in our country, you name it. And everything combined so that we were constantly facing an uphill battle. So my biggest challenge as district director was clubs going sick and then trying to nurse them back to health. Forget about club growth. you know, we were just trying to save
I
the
know.
chickens that we had, right? Yeah.
I know.
So in my year, yeah, you know the feeling, right? Because when you lose a club, it's like it hurts you more than
It
not
does.
establishing a new club. It's more hurtful, right?
It,
Because
it
you
does.
have to make up for that lost club, and then you have
And
to
then one.
open another club to show growth.
Just to break
So,
even.
oh yeah. So yeah, that was quite challenging, but I think we did pretty well. We did not achieve distinguished this year, but we achieved excellence in program quality. We also achieved a distinction in another metric, which is the percentage of clubs that have 20 members or more. So we were one of the districts that
Wow.
achieved distinction in that. So I'd say I'm pretty grateful because the conditions were quite tough during past years. And you know what? On top of that, this whole ERP upgrade came. I mean,
Yep.
seriously, who upgrades their ERP in April and May? I mean, you couldn't you couldn't think of a worst possible time to upgrade an ERP, no matter which organization you're talking about. Essentially, what we got was 10 months to implement the targets that were there for 12 months. So yeah, everything, it was a perfect storm of madness. Somehow we got through it. So I'm grateful for where we were. We did not achieve distinguished, but we were in one of the districts that achieved quite a few feats and they performed well. So yeah, that has been my journey, Joseph.
That, I think you need to borrow my gavel and get your way through some of these challenges. I understand. Club growth director, everyone watches you now. How many more clubs are going to start? Then you go to every division. How many clubs are you going to start? Every area. And some divisions are healthy and some aren't. And now, since I'm no longer in the trio, of course, they want me to be on the club extension team, the club retention team, different ones, and still help start clubs, even though I don't hold that position officially right now because I was fortunate. I started 2 new clubs in the last 6 months, and that doesn't happen very often, especially here in California. So very challenging, but I loved it. But they just expect me to have the answers. I don't have the answer. I have a passion, but we also have a life outside of Toastmasters. So, how do you find that balance between this passion here and that passion and family and work and so many other things? How do you do it?
And that's interesting. And, people are kind of taken aback when I answer that question. So be ready. I actually don't have a life. What I mean to,
There it is,
yeah,
normal life.
what I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. What I mean to say is that I have always been an introvert. So I've had very few friends, right? Very little social life to speak of. I've been into reading and gaming and writing. So these are all things that actually allow you to stay inside and not face other people, right? So, so I've been lucky in that respect that Toastmasters as an activity dealt so well with whatever I was into
Yeah.
that people find it hard to believe how much time I'm able to spare for Toastmasters. And I always tell them that, you guys have a life. I don't. And it's easy. Like I had a vacuum for a life and Toastmasters filled it.
Yeah.
You guys already had active social lives. I did not. And secondly, this whole online thing, I think that also eased things quite a bit in terms of my involvement with Toastmasters versus my responsibilities in terms of family life. I mean, say whatever you want about in-person versus online. We can debate all day. But one thing is for sure, this thing actually allows you to be with your family and
Yeah.
simultaneously be with your Toastmasters family. You invite Toastmasters into your home and
Yeah.
you invite your homes into a Toastmasters meeting. What could be more beautiful than that? And that enables one to attend multiple meetings
Sure.
around the world, right? And hop from country to country like we both do. So yeah, that has been quite helpful. But yeah, uh, as a final note, I would say that Toastmasters is already aligned with the things that I was fond of doing. So I did not really struggle to find a balance with Toastmasters. It fit very naturally into whatever I was about.
I love it. Introvert. I don't have a life. It's been exciting. I would have never met you if it wasn't for this new format or so many others around the world. In fact, I belong to clubs in 3 different districts. I don't know how that happened. It's not supposed to happen, but it did. And because I found something I liked, like I belong to a district in Hawaii, Hawaii Comedy Central. I love comedy. It was really great. I started an improv, we call it TM Studios over here in our district, and I belong to one in Singapore. And who knows? I don't even know because there's no lines really dividing us. It's a passion, and we all have the similar goals. We all want to become better communicators, and we don't all want to be leaders, but we're stuck. It's just the way the process works. We start leading little groups
Yes,
and
yes.
clubs and things some of us don't even want to do or understand how it happened. And that's always exciting, our growth in that matter. Well, that being said, we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back. We want to hear more about Talha and what are his goals from here. So it's going to be pretty exciting. So everybody stand by. You're in the office with Joseph Skoda.
Welcome to Social Media Shows. Let us help you
with social media shows. Well,
most famous firms in the city of New York. So his job is very hectic, and he realized that it is necessary for him to go and finally take a vacation. But he went on a vacation without planning out the details, and wasn't able to truly enjoy where he went because he had to think about so many things that he didn't plan for. Instead of enjoying his time away from and his experience with the club was amazing, as he made many friends there with whom he had a great time. John recommends that everyone should try this club, as they are the best in business. See how the VIP-vacation-club.com can give you the right experience without all the hassle. Enjoy the VIP experience that only World Ventures provides.
Hello, everyone. We're back from in the office with Joseph Skoda. You can see, even though we live across the world from each other, we find the same hat place, the same place that sold the same hat. Look how fashionable we look right now. Everybody, please help me welcome once again Talha. We've been talking a little bit about Toastmasters and some of his challenges, and you became smelly distinguished. I can't fathom that. In fact, since I've been a Toastmaster, our district's been President's Distinguished probably 5 or 6 years ago. And that was very fun. I think I had an international convention in Vancouver, Canada that year, and everybody's walking across with the big banner. And those events, those international events, probably what kept me in the organization, because you could see something bigger and better than your club, even your district. And district events are great because, like you said, you went from 20 clubs to 29 to 34 to 40 to I don't even know how many you have today. And you can see the growth and get to know different people from everywhere. Like, wow, that's why I'm still a Toastmaster. Really quick, how many clubs do you belong to? How many clubs do you belong to currently?
Oh, I actually belong to 7 clubs
7
across
clubs.
2 districts. Yes, yes.
What about your wife? She belongs to the same clubs?
No, she belongs to only 2, actually.
How does she? I belong to 10. How does she get away with 2? Some people would say I don't have a life either. I belong
Well,
to 10.
we're working on it.
Yeah, but some of my clubs meet once a month. Some meet like every other week. Some meet in the morning. Some meet in the evenings. And it works for me. I make most of my meetings. Some people will sign up to help the club and never show up. I'm there. I've got meetings in person. I'm driving an hour to a meeting this Monday coming up, but I usually don't drive that far away. Most are usually a little bit closer. But the in-person, virtual, a hybrid, we go back and forth. But I get something out of all of them. They all feed me up here a little bit, and the friendships that we develop. And I think that made a big difference in my life, not just the friendships in my community or the town I live in, but across the world. Tell us about some of the newer or relationships that you've been able to develop and what keeps them strong in your life. I love the pictures of your family. That's beautiful. So what keeps those relationships strong? It's the internet. In some cases. All right. There you are.
Yeah, I got disconnected. Apologies for that. There's spotty connection here.
That happens, and that's something we have to live with, and not just Toastmasters everyday life.
Yes.
When we're at home, we don't know what's happening.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about some of those strong relationships.
Sorry, come again?
Well, some of the friendships that you develop through this organization and what keeps them strong and how it is different than you've ever had before.
Yes. It's a challenge for me because, as I told you, by nature, I'm an introvert, right? And I cease to be an introvert as long as I'm in a Toastmaster setting, right?
Right.
So relationships and friendships that I've developed in Toastmasters, they happen to be sincere, right? They happen to be strong, and they happen to be there 24/7. because we Toastmasters, you would know, we are in the habit of communicating at all times of the day, right?
And
Doesn't
night.
really matter. In fact, after our workday ends, the Toastmaster, yeah, yeah. After the workday ends, the Toastmaster day begins, and it's an 8 to 10 hours long day, right?
Right
Across
on.
various activities. So, one thing that I've one thing that I cherish about Toastmasters is that every relationship that I have developed through Toastmasters, they genuinely love me and see me as a human being, number one. And secondly, they are there for me as a Toastmaster or as a person, doesn't really matter. I've seen people giving help and taking help through Toastmasters, and it's a different flavor of relationship. If I go in a different city, I land there, all I need to do is just put on my Facebook that, I'm traveling to this city. And instantly I received like 10 invitations on WhatsApp. Like, you were coming to the city. Why didn't you tell us? We would have picked you up from the airport, etc., etc. I used to think that this was due to my status as a district leader, but then I saw it happening with other Toastmasters who are not district leaders. And I got convinced that, this unlocks something inside of you that is that is something that we wish we had, but we are too busy to have, which is sincere affection for other human beings. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. No, I totally can agree with that. I don't know how many times I've traveled to a different city or state, and someone says, "Come visit. You need to come check us out." And I don't even know them, but by Zoom in some cases, even internationally. Even though I live in America, it's my background's Czechoslovakian, and I met people from
Yeah,
Prague and other places, Slovakia, Croatia. Hey, whenever you're here, we'll pick you up. We'll show you around those different sites, and like,
exactly.
wow,
It's
and you feel safe. We're not strangers.
yes, exactly. It's so amazing. I mean, the sheer lack of barriers
Yep,
in terms of where you belong to, who you are,
sure,
and the way they sincerely greet you, no matter where you go. And I'm talking also about online, not just in person. But
right,
there's one complicated aspect on top of that. Sometimes when you do have a friendship, for
yes,
example, I have a amazing friend uh, who came to me through Toastmasters. And
yes,
initially, you struggle to bifurcate between the person and the Toastmaster, right?
sure,
The activities are so intertwined that you struggle to see the person for who they are, uh, as opposed to just the Toastmaster. So yeah, that's also a learning curve. Ultimately, you do get the hang of it, but it takes you a few years to do that.
it does. What's different in our organization that I've found out that we all know is we support each other. Whether you're a leader, you're giving your first speech or icebreaker, you've been around for a long time, or giving that table topics and you barely make that 1 minute mark, everyone supports you and claps
Yeah.
and say you'll do better next time, and they'll evaluate you in a kind manner. It says, well, we'll help you become better next
Yes.
time. Here's our recommendation. It's so kind and so supportive. It goes with the core values. Respect is number one. In my mind, respecting each other number one. And then of course you have integrity and service and excellence. You put all that together. And we should put that all together in our everyday life anyways. But just that mutual respect, like, well, tell me your story. I don't really know you. Tell me where you're from and what are some of your challenges. So that's always pretty exciting there. I'm curious now that you're no longer district leader. We talked about that you have very um, good interest in competing for the world champion of public speaking, as your wife has done in the past. How are you going to compete against your wife?
Well, actually, I won't.
Listening, is she?
That's the only way out, right? Something that I found out over my time in Toastmasters is
Yeah,
that that you yeah, because see, Sometimes helping others and watching others succeed can be more beautiful than you succeeding on your own, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
over past few years, I've coached quite a few contestants, and everybody in my district knows that my wife is one of the contestants, and yet they come to me for coaching and advice about their speeches. So I believe
Wow.
that is also something that can stand. Yeah, yeah. So they have that kind of trust in me, right? And I've set some ground rules. I've told everyone that, as everyone knows, my wife competes, so I won't tell anyone to change their speech, change their topic. Start
Sure.
from whatever you have, and then I can build upon that. And that will ensure that I stay neutral, I stay impartial, right? And
Sure.
that's the chief complaint of my wife, because she says that you are so impartial that people you coach beat me and go on to win district contests. and but this time she had the last word. Yeah,
Yeah,
she did not place in the podium in the district contest, but then she
sure.
came place second in the video speech contest. So that was kind of a vindication, and that was also a statement on how the judging went in our district contest
Sure.
versus how
Sure.
the judging goes internationally, right? So that's what I plan to do. I also plan to go, fingers crossed, I plan to go for region advisor maybe. So I don't see competing near in my near future. Instead, maybe, sometimes just being the kingmaker maybe
Yep.
is a far more attractive proposition for me. Yeah. And
It's safer.
it's safer, and it's truly rewarding. I mean, seriously, the rush that you get when you coach someone and they win,
Yeah.
it's comparable to what you would get if you won. So yeah.
Sure, sure. That that's a good answer. Good answer. And I too hope to be a regional advisor in the near future. I'm in another leadership organization now, and the conflict doesn't really let me run at this time. But in the future, hope to be up there with you because it really
Right, right.
I don't know, it draws you in. Toastmasters draws in
Oh yes.
the cream of the
Yeah,
crop.
yeah.
And
It
even though we're not the top,
it it
but I
does.
make us feel that way. Yeah, it
Yeah, it
does.
it 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 actually occupies every spare space in your mind that you have, and 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 you start to think about Toastmasters and what you can do as a leader, how you can innovate, how you can help people, how you can try new things. You find that you are doing this all the time, and
Yeah,
you come up with ideas and approaches, and you come up with projects, and you have achievements that you yourself are surprised that you could ever think about achieving those things. So that's the beauty of Toastmaster. You're right, it does draw you in because it's one of the few places where when you invest your effort, you
yeah,
not only get a emotional reward, but you also more often than not get recognition, which
yeah.
is either equal to or even far exceeding whatever time or effort you invested. And how many places you can say that about in real life, right? There's no other place.
No other place, and we don't even get paid.
Oh yeah, oh
we're,
yes.
we're, we're not even getting paid in the district. Well, travel expenses reimbursed, but
But
we
you
just do
know,
it because we want to do it.
you know the funny thing is, I've never myself ever found wishing that I wish I could get paid for it. Never once. People ask me all the time when they see my activities and they see me on social media, they
Yeah,
say, "How much do you get paid for it?" And that question is so alien somehow. I don't know why. Because maybe it's a business of helping other people.
sure.
You receive so much help, you receive so much sincerity, and then
Yeah,
you continue to give it back over the years. That is so beautiful that it's beyond any monetary compensation.
you're right. If people don't get it, the more we give, the more we get back. It's true. And it feels so good. And I've helped me too, just like you. I've mentored and coached so many. I don't think there's a better payment than someone asking you to mentor them. I don't think there's something
Yes.
that's worth more than someone they don't even know come tug you or make that phone call and say, "Can you help me?" Uh, that's huge. And that's when
Exactly.
I felt like, wow, I am making a difference. I didn't even know it or could see it before.
Yes.
And people like, yeah, when Richard Peck, the past international president, and he saw me when we were in Nashville a couple weeks ago, he's like, "Where's your hat?" Where's your, because I'm known for not wearing these hats, but
Wow.
hats. And I get that a lot. And if you see me around the world when I speak, "Where's your hat?" And I don't want to crush it in the suitcase, so I didn't bring one with me. And but he wasn't the only one. I probably got that from 2 or 3 people. "Where's your hat?" And not only that, the international president knows me by name. The past international president knows me by name. The current international president knows me by name. Wow, they're just people like you and I. You and I, they have their own passion, something drew them in. They probably never wanted to be a Toastmaster before. And I was a horrible speaker. But we know each other by name. And that's pretty exciting. You know, we've interviewed the leaders in place now. We've interviewed them at one time or another, being district leaders. And sure, we look at the resume, maybe their website or Facebook page, but it's the one-on-one conversation that we have with these current leaders. And sometimes you can't get that in other jobs or professions. But here we're like, why do you want to be the
You
regional
can.
advisor? What drives you to international director? And you hear and you see the tears or the laughter, the smiling, and the support system. And I interviewed this woman, I think from Australia. I don't remember her name offhand. And well, I'm looking at her resume. Okay, she was district governor back then. And then for like 10 years, nothing. And then she's trying to be international director or something. I'm like, "What'd you do for 10 years?" And when she talked about, "Well, I did this for the district, or I did that for headquarters, or I was involved in this other leadership thing," she didn't disappear. She didn't hold the title, but she didn't disappear. And too many of us are like, "Well, if you don't have that title, then you're not doing nothing." That is so far from the truth, I found out. And I'm learning myself. I don't hold an official title this year, but those that are in my circle, I'm getting called constantly by district leadership to give trainings, to do seminars and presentations, and do designing whatever in the background to get us up and going. And I think that nothing's better than that when people recognize that. So, anyways, I love how you jump in and out, Talha. And it's pretty exciting. Our internet service comes and goes sometimes. But, anyways, I just want to thank you for joining us. Probably going to cut out here real quick because it is in the office, and in the office is at different times and days for all of us, depending on where you're tuning in from. But, anyways, I appreciate you being our guest today, and I look forward to seeing you and what you have to hold for us in the future and which hat you're going to wear next time. Oh, there you are. So it's pretty cool how things happen. So, hey, there he is.
Hi, I'm back again.
You must
Yeah.
must be magic. You must be a magician.
Just trying to.
Well, really quick, which district do you come from? What district do you represent?
I represent District 122, which is the entire country of Pakistan.
Okay.
So it used to be a territorial council, and from July 1, it became a provisional district. And fingers crossed, our aim is to get to 60 clubs and a full district status. After which, your dream of me competing against my wife in Internet World Championship will come true. So let's both hope for that.
We all need a goal. We all need something we're working towards. Well, before I let you go, what are some of your goals besides being a region advisor? What about outside of Toastmasters? What are some of the things you still want to accomplish in your life?
Yes. First of all, there's always this constant drive to excel in my professionally, right? My field is internal auditing and risk advisory. So, in fact, it is all about communication, versus conventional accounting. This side of our profession is 90% about communication, whether it's oral or written, presentations, meetings. And I was way into it even before I joined Toastmasters. Because when I qualified, when I got the certificate of chartered accountancy in 2002, I had two or three possible paths to follow. Either it was to go the finance route, where I could be within the finance function of a company, or I could go into the internal auditing / advisory side, or I could go into the taxation side. So I chose internal auditing because, as I told you earlier, I was mortified when I found that what a chartered accountant does, and how is it not remotely in line with the person that I am. So, but this side of the business, the advisory function, it allows you to be creative, it allows you to communicate, it allows you to actually suggest improvements and then see those improvements roll out. So it's quite rewarding. So my one aim at the outside of Toastmasters is to excel in that. Of course, I've spent like 20 plus years in this career. And one thing that you want is that you wish to be a person of distinction in terms of what you were able to do for your organizations. And I believe that my profession places me in a unique position because were I in finance or in a typical operational position, I would maybe excel in that side, but that is not that noticeable versus the risk advisory side where you're able to advise a company where they're going wrong, what do they need to do, are there any warning signs they're ignoring. So yeah, I constantly, and I believe that this communication side of Toastmasters has helped me tremendously in that because when you go and audit someone, no one wants to be audited. Number one, right?
That's
they
right.
think of you as someone who is their enemy, and you have to convince them. You have to convince them that you're on their side. And wearing the auditor's hat and saying that I'm on your side, two things couldn't be more different. But then your powers of communication, the way you present your reports to them, the way you recommend things to them, ultimately, it can bring them to your side that, okay, fine, this is something that's happening for our own good, and maybe we should support it. So that's terribly rewarding. And I believe that Toastmasters has helped me quite a bit in improving that particular aspect. So yeah, that's what I hope to do and maybe work my way up to leading an organization someday. Although I'm not too conscious about that because when you have such hopes and dreams and goals, and for
Yep.
some reason you don't achieve them, you spend the rest of your life in a shoulda, woulda, coulda
Yes, I
mind.
know that one. I know that one.
And yeah, exactly. And like you spend years and decades regretting what could have been. So maybe call it a cop out or what, but I don't want to be in that position, right? So I have my dreams very rational and very attainable and very gettable.
Smart man. The smart dreams, the smart goals.
Yeah,
Too many of us. And it's okay
exactly.
to, right, you
Exactly.
reach for the stars, you follow around the moon or whatever that calls you. You need to keep stretching and reaching. Growth is all about stretching ourselves.
Right.
It doesn't really matter where we end up, we're still growing. And very much, I'm always asked to um, speak in other places and organizations and public settings. And I was afraid. It took me 12 years to get my 2 year degree because I was afraid of speech. I needed speech, and I would take it
Wow.
and fail. I would take it and not make it. I would run, and today you can't shut me up. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, we appreciate you joining our audience today and sharing a little bit about your story and how you and your wife are going to compete. I'm sure you're both competitive anyways. So these things don't really matter. But thank you for sharing your story with us. And I totally agree. Toastmaster respect, integrity, service, excellence, the people that we meet along the way. Wow, we're the best organization in the world as far as I'm concerned. Well, with that being said, I appreciate you. You've been in the office with Joseph Skoda and Talha bin Hamid. So we'll talk to you all very soon. Please subscribe to our channel at Social Media Shows Network, or socialmediashows.com and other places you see us. And deeply appreciate it.
Fingers
If
crossed.
any comments, any questions for each and any one of us, please reach out. So life is good. And thank you so much, world. Talk to you soon. If you liked our show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on any social media platform, Instagram, of course, Facebook. Like, subscribe, share. We appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts and join our team. Anyways, we appreciate you staying tuned week after week, day after day, because we continuously build up our network to bring to you what you're asking for. Have a great day.